Call to order this regular meeting of the Board of Health for December 11, 2018. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Citizens' time. Is anyone here who is not on the agenda who has an issue or concern to bring before the Board of Health? Applications, Millipore, 400 to 600 Summit Drive, RDNA permit renewal. If you could sign in and please give us your names.
I'm Jacqueline Lake. I'm the property manager for Burlington.
All right, welcome.
Do you have two other colleagues here?
Just the two of us.
Okay,
Please have a seat.
thank you.
Bobby Young?
Thank you. Is it Dr. Young? I don't know what all those things stand for, but I want to make sure one of them wasn't a doctorate in something.
Certified Hazardous Materials Manager.
Okay,
And
very good.
Certified Safety.
No, Christine.
Millipore's here to renew their RDNA permit, and Mr. Young has prepared a overview of their current operations and an update on their health and safety plans, bloodborne pathogens, security, etc. So I'll let him run through his presentation.
Okay, so that, as you know, Mr. Young, this isn't our first rodeo, so if there is, we definitely want to know how your operation is going, but if there are details that we've heard before, we can move on. All right, great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry for turning it back to the audience. Outline today is we do introductions, guidelines, and the permit fee. Talk about our biosafety and bloodborne pathogen program, our chemical hygiene program, and we have a list of our IBCs. And we'll wrap it up with the pest control program and any questions that you may have.
Great.
We've done the introductions. Again, I'm the environment, health, and safety engineer. My background is environmental, and I have a professional certification as the Certified Hazardous Materials Manager and Certified Safety Professional. I'm not a microbiologist. We reach out to consultants for that subject matter expert term.
Great, great.
Guidelines and permit fees. We obviously, number one, we follow the Town of Burlington's RDNA regulations, coupled with the National Institute of Health guidelines for the research involving RDNA molecules. The check today is for the fees, $750. We have that in hand. We're small operations. Obviously, most of our stuff is like biosafety level 1, and occasionally we get some biosafety level 2s. We have one project that we've registered with the town. It's a customer fee containing some recombinant mammalian viruses, and one we have under review by our IBC internally. So once we've completed the risk assessment on that, we'll submit it to Christine. The bloodborne pathogens and biosafety program, that's a training program that we have for employees. Each employee must have the biosafety training within 90 days of assignment and 3 years thereafter. The bloodborne pathogen training is within 30 days of assignment and every year thereafter.
How do you determine efficacy of your training? Is there a post-test?
Yes, there's a test, and also we have each participant signs off they've taken the training, and we have it electronically. We can retrieve the training records at will. The medical surveillance program is also in this program, and it's administered by Occupational Health Services. Our nurse, Sam Medeiros, provided this to the employees that may be exposed. And if there's any exposure or incidents, she reports that to the Board of Health as well. Waste disposal program, we have on-site and off-site disposal methods, and that's addressed in this program as well. On-site disposal, we use the chemical bleaching 10% 30-minute contact time, and we also have autoclaves on site. We use Stericycle as our offset disposal.
Sorry.
Chemical hygiene program, this covers the contents of the health and safety manual to satisfy the requirements of the renewal permit as for the health and safety manual. We've shared this with Christine in the past last year. It also covers safe handling of chemicals, chemical disposal requirements, and labeling.
Christine, they're all up to date?
This slide is not too legible, but this is our IBC members. Have myself, Sam Adarius, Occupational Health Manager, Ronnie Khalil is the Preventive Service Manager, Sarah Wilson, she's with TRC, that's the consultant that we hired, coming to provide the subject matter expert experience that we need. Jim Harrison, you all know him, he's with the town of Burlington. There's also Christine. Vincent Sir Matero is the operations manager, and Lamine Gallo is a microbiologist. The pest control program, we use JP Pest Control Services out of Milford. They control interior and exterior. Target pests are rats, mice, your stored product pests, and crawling pests. This slide is intended to show the security and also shows the layout of the laboratories where the biological activity is going on. The little rectangles there, my color sense is not that good. I would say it's blue, but right next to the door, there's little rectangles. Those are the card access. So in order for an employee to get into that area, they have to swipe their badge. And if they're not authorized to go in, they can't get in. So that's basically our brief overview. Any questions, we'd like to take them now.
Does Millipore own the building?
No, we do not.
Okay, so you are the property manager for the owner of the building?
No, I'm the property manager. I work for corporate Millipore.
Oh, you were, okay. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Christine, we've had no problems at all?
I have not.
That's wonderful, thank you. And just to allow the community to remind them, because they hear these letters and numbers, BL2, although there is some risk to people who are individuals in the building, the community risk in BL-2 is considered low. And I just want the community to know that. And you only used 1 or 2, correct? So, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Yeah, no, if you recall, Mr. Vice Chair, we stood in front of town meeting very concerned about all of these things, and we reassured them with regard to level 1 and level 2. We have no 3 or 4 in the town. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Young? If not, the chair will entertain a motion with regard to this RDNA permit renewal.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the RDNA permit renewal for Millipore 400-600 Summit Drive.
Second it.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0. Thank you very much for your time.
Sure.
We're good.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Have a great night.
Do good things.
Thank you so much.
And that check is made out to Chair of the Board of Health?
Susan, how do I get into email?
You better not even,
Christine knows what to do.
No, you need to bring that to the office. Okay, I can't accept it.
I'll bring it tomorrow.
That's fine.
Applications, I hope I'm saying it correctly, but Sarepta Therapeutical, 55 Network Drive, RDNA permit application.
have everybody sign in.
Wow, Attorney Vaughn too, this is big.
I'm just going to give a brief
All right,
introduction.
if you could
if I
sign
can.
in and give your names, that'd be
How do I
great.
get out of you and into me?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. For the record, Attorney Mark Vaughn with the law firm of Reamer Bronstein, representing the petitioner, Sarepta Therapeutics. I did have the pleasure of appearing before you, I think at your last meeting a couple of weeks ago, at which time we had the special permit application pending with the planning board for this matter. Again, Sarepta Therapeutics is looking to occupy space at 55 Network Drive, which was formerly the space occupied by Diax. Same exact square footage, same space. We went through that program at that time with the board. You issued comments. We did get our special permit approval from the planning board last week. And obviously, we have filed for the RDNA permit with you. So I know Sarepta is very excited about the opportunity to locate here in Burlington, and they are a pretty amazing company in terms of what their mission is, and we talked about it a little bit before, but just the research and drug development that they're doing to combat genetic diseases. I am going to turn it over to Jay to walk through this with his team, because this is much more complicated than anything I know, but thank you.
So good evening, Mr. Chair and Board. I'm Jay Karima. I'm Sarepta Therapeutics Environmental Health and Safety Manager. And today I'll be walking through our permit application. So when we can get the PowerPoint slide up.
Doesn't want to come up. All right.
Are you moving from the Andover facility to Burlington, or are you maintaining the Andover
We'll be
facility?
maintaining the Andover facility and adding new space here. So
Aren't you amazed at how quickly that flashed, but I caught it? Aren't you amazed?
what was that?
How quickly it flashed across the stream, but I caught it? Observational powers.
I thought you were following the company.
Whatever. Yeah, I know. That's how I pull you in.
There we go.
Marijuana is legal in Massachusetts.
Excellent. So again, this application is for 55 Network Drive here in Burlington. Just an overview of our safety and health training requirements for the company. We have operated and do operate a facility in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which has a recombinant DNA permit currently. So we will include our complete general safety training for access to our laboratories, which is part of our security protocols. So we'll have training on things like emergency response, hazard communication, personal protective equipment. We also do complete chemistry safety training, which includes training for our chemical hygiene plan for all of our employees and people that will be working in the laboratories. We touch on safe handling and storage practices, proper fume hood operation, all the basics to make sure that we're working and functioning in a safe manner.
How do you assess learning?
We have tests at the end, and then we also track electronically as well. So, and then, the biologic safety training components, so biosafety training, and then we touch on blood-borne pathogens for that. So, in addition to these requirements, all of our employees do receive hazardous waste training, or generator training, and our training is triggered within 30 days of hire, and then annually as a refresher. So we maintain, laboratories aside, we do maintain compliant safety and health programs. We work with safety partners out of Cambridge and Bedford, Massachusetts. They're kind of a preeminent consulting firm for biotech safety and health program development. We strive for continuous improvement efforts, which are demonstrated through a monthly inspection process that's actually owned by the laboratories, with feedback focused specifically on environmental health and safety to drive. The results are presented at our monthly meetings that we have with our site leadership, so there's a feedback mechanism. We are implementing and utilizing enterprise-wide EHS management system. Name drop up there, it's called Velocity EHS, but when we stand up the Burlington site, this will also help with our compliance and auditing and inspection protocols. So
Next.
we're good. Yes, please. So the hazardous and biological waste programs that we have, both of these programs are actively managed by the departments that own the process. And we do offer and require spill response training, which is included with our hazardous waste training and also as a part of our chemical hygiene training. So this is both for incidental chemistry spills as well as biologics-related spills. Our biological waste training will most likely be on a weekly or waste pickup, excuse me, will most likely be on a weekly basis, just due to the sheer volume of the material. We'll be disposing of a lot of gloves, wipes, frocks and coveralls and things like that. Not necessarily contaminated, but as a part of the process, or being near or adjacent to the process.
Do you have on-site disposal?
Yeah, we'll be utilizing, we have on-site storage, and then we'll be using Stericycle, which we currently use for our Cambridge facility.
And what's the protocol for sending things off-site? Stored in drums, specific area, locked?
Yep, so we store them in biosafety bins, reusable bins, which are in our Andover facility there in our main accumulation area, designated with the hazardous waste and managed under lock and key, or in our case, a badge access. So they're in a secure location waiting for disposal.
I forget what Dyax and Shire were beforehand. They weren't doing RDNA, were they?
Yep,
Yes.
same exact location.
Same exact thing? Okay. I'm
And
sorry.
is biological waste is autoclaved, I think I saw.
So we do have an autoclave. We anticipate that we will utilize that. If not, it will be put into those totes and then stored for disposal.
And I don't know if we talked about this at the last meeting, is Burlington going to be a redundant site to Cambridge and Andover? Are you moving certain functions out of?
So we're going to be moving our gene therapy operations, which is a new part of our business that's going to be coming
That's
to
right, yes,
Burlington.
okay, thank you.
Yep. So, and just a bullet point at the bottom to kind of talk about our culture of environmental stewardship and safety. We did actually receive a surprise EPA inspection not too long ago at our Andover facility, and we did very well with that. Seeing as we're less than 2 years operating at that site, it was definitely a tip of the cap to our employees and their level of attentiveness and detail to these matters.
Management.
Yeah. Yep. So, we do have a medical surveillance program, which, will be managed in accordance with our biosafety plan and our bloodborne pathogens plan. We make Hep B vaccines available to our employees. Currently, our OC Health provider is in Cambridge. It's Mount Auburn Occupational Safety. I would imagine we'll probably, or most likely, look for a OC Health provider closer for our employees to help with the response time in the event that we do have an potential exposure. So, and the practices are all standard with medical surveillance programs. So again, for pest control, I have to reference our existing facilities. We will be utilizing an established SOP that we have for pest control. It details and is communicated to all of our employees to report any pest, rodent sightings at the facility. We utilize pest control contractor, and we follow the established procedures in the bullet points there. Our IBC members, or our forecasted IBC members, are listed here. We were approved, or Jim Harrison was nice enough to volunteer, voluntold, however you want to put it, to join our IBC. But no, we had great talk. I had a great talk with him, and I'm looking forward to working with him and sharing some of the great things that we're doing with the company. Our TBD at the bottom, we actually did just hire a facilities manager for this site, so they will be brought up to speed and most likely sitting in on our first meeting. At Sarepta, we utilize multiple layers of security. We start with a guard. We will have them in the lobby Monday through Friday. We are not going to be a 24-hour operation as of now there, so it'll be Monday through Friday efforts. With the security guard, employees are issued badges. We provide security awareness training at our new employee training, and critical access points are restricted, like our laboratories, the haz waste and chemical and biological storage areas will all require additional training prior to gaining access via access card.
Well, that's it, right?
So if anybody has any questions?
So I, at your sites, actually, this is, wherever you've been doing gene therapy before this, was there ever a consideration that you were gonna go to biosafety level 3? We have it in the conditions, as you know, because you're a 2, and we like to be extra, 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 extra.
Sure.
But
I'll have
any-
to defer to our leaders. We do have some folks here from that group, so I can ask that question.
Hi, leaders.
Have,
Is Chris Campbell and Polani in?
Yeah, so I'm just curious, we don't like surprises. We had a very, when our DNA first came around, we had a very concerned town meeting, and we talked about level 1 and level 2 as being safe. I just want to know if there's something in the future that we should at least be prepared for.
Yeah, of course. Good evening. My name is Palaniappan. I head up the.
could you sign in, please?
Oh, sure. I head up the technical operations for Sarepta. I'm going to ask head of gene therapy for Sarepta, Chris Campbell, to come talk about that.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Chris Campbell, and I'll sign in as well. So I would say there is no anticipated utilization of BL3. So that is not within Sarepta's portfolio at this point, and that's the best information I have.
Okay,
Thank
all
you
right,
very much.
that's good. And you'll keep us surprised because we're a loving, wonderful community together. If there are any changes or considerations, just so we can be prepared, not forbid, just be prepared.
Thank you. I
And
apologize.
you're cool with the, you're cool with the 5,
7.
the-
7,
I have 5.
I have 5.
5.
we have 7? Well, how many?
5.
Okay.
Here.
All right, 5, I have.
Here.
Okay, maybe it was my.
You're cool with the 5 conditions?
Yes, yep.
More importantly, are you cool with the 5 conditions?
Yeah, no, we are. We did see.
Oh,
them.
yes, there are 5.
I think there were 7 in the recommendation.
Yes, I had the wrong page, thank you.
I was looking at the wrong one.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
no concerns from your end, Christine?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one comment. I just want to make sure that they add Christine Mathis to the IBC committee, because it's a requirement of the regulations.
Absolutely.
Yeah, one of their conditions is they have to update, because some of their plans refer to Andover, and so they have to update not only of several of their plans, but also the IBC. That's in condition 3.
Thank you.
Great, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the RDNA permit for Sarepta Therapeutical 55 Network Drive.
Second, Mr. Chairman?
Motion and second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
4-0, welcome to Burlington.
Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure, Attorney Vaughn.
Same. Thank you. Happy holidays to you all.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
very much.
thank you
Yes,
very,
thank you.
very much. Variance, Blackbird Cafe, 101 Middlesex Turnpike, Section 4 of the Board of Health Regulations on grease interceptor requirements for food establishments, specifically regarding the external grease interceptor. Come on up, give us your names, and Marlene, when everybody's ready, we can rock.
Hi, my name's Catherine Kenny.
Luke Kenny.
Could
Cafe.
could someone,
Turn the lights
Lights
back
on,
on?
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, we can
Unless
have
you want
lights.
to do a presentation.
We can have lights again.
This is what we got.
Excellent.
So, welcome Kenny's, and Marlene.
So the Kennys are before you this evening to request a variance from putting in an external grease interceptor. They will be taking over the location at 101 Middlesex Turnpike, which used to be Pizzeria Presti. So they're changing the business, so they do need to come before the board because the menu has changed substantially from the previous owner. They are aware that the food service establishment operator and property owner understand that this variance may be subject to revocation, suspension, or expiration as determined by the Board of Health. A variance under these regulations may be revoked, modified, or suspended only after the food service establishment has been notified in writing and given an opportunity to be heard at a regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Health. Reasons for revocation, modification, or suspension of a variance include, but are not limited to, a determination that the food service establishment is discharging grease in quantities sufficient to cause sanitary sewer line blockages or increased maintenance of sewer lines.
We call that fog.
Yes, we do.
Fats, oils, and grease.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So the Kennys run 2 other cafes, so they are very familiar with internal grease interceptors and the importance of having them serviced and cleaned on a regular basis.
Then, in that regard, I will now introduce Dr. Weiner,
How did that happen?
as it always does.
We have had issues in the past, not necessarily with you or any, but we just want to make sure that the system works. I know that our draconian health agent, who will be, she's pretty tough if you do not have your grease, FOG, fats, oil, and grease, we call it fog, lists all the way up to logs up to date, make sure they're up to date, we'll have no problem at all. We just want to make sure the system works. We understand that you don't own the building, and this is a necessity for you to practice and to be in business, but we have to be very careful about backups and careful problems within the tower sewers. So as long as you have your logs up to date and they're being cleaned appropriately and regularly, I don't think you'll have a problem with any of us.
So the menu looks good. Tell us about your business, your cafe, and when you're planning on opening.
You are on local television.
This
so
is a free advertisement for you.
Millions are watching.
Millions. Millions.
Yeah, no, thank you. We're very excited to.
More than you think.
To come to town. We're both from Acton. We live in Groton. We've been doing business as the Blackbird Cafe for 9 years this December, and we're very excited to grow our business here in Burlington.
That's great.
So we're very excited. If we can get all our ducks in a row, we will be open very early spring.
Oh,
Hot sausage in spicy vodka sauce. There's so many words in that sentence that just make me happy. So, anyway, we're thrilled that you're here. The chair will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the variance for the grease interceptor for the Blackbird Cafe at 101 Middlesex Turnpike.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion other than welcome to Burlington? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
4-0. Thank you.
thank you.
All set?
Yeah. Welcome to Burlington.
Thank you.
Variance, Bickford, 6 Cambridge Street, Section 6 of the Board of Health Regulations on grease interceptor requirements for food establishments. Welcome. Please sign in and give us your names.
I'm Linda Milley, I'm the owner.
My name's Henry Yee. I'm a manager.
Are you the owner of Bickford's?
I am.
So this one and the others as well, or just this one?
We have 4 locations, Brockton, Acton, Burlington, and Woburn.
Oh, welcome. So, Marlene, is this you as well?
No, Susan, it's me.
Okay.
So the Millies are here to request a variance from Section 6 of the grease interceptor maintenance regulations. In the background memo, I just want to point out that they have 2 internal grease interceptors, but no external grease interceptors. So per the regulations, they're required to be serviced every 3 months, or 25% of capacity, so that's what the variance would be for. So I had called up the Millies, Linda Millie, to discuss the issues in the area along Ray Avenue.
Which you must have been aware.
I've seen the
Of
trucks
Ray
out
Ave.
there camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they are currently using the protein matrix product at their restaurant in Woburn with great success. It sounded like in conversations, and she can probably tell you a little bit more about their experience with that. But they've been interested in for a while and also using it in Burlington, so I had just let her know if they would like to use it in Burlington, then they would need to come before us for the variance.
So I guess my only question for you is, we're still trying to figure out this whole protein matrix thing here. Is this a good idea to be entertaining right now in the midst of this investigation for which we have a subcommittee and a lot of meetings and understandings, et cetera, et cetera?
So there is still issues going on with fog, and that is being reported by the DPW. So the DPW is still going out and doing the regular cleanings on a monthly basis. And each time they're doing the cleanings, they're still seeing fog in the system. We cannot attribute that to, we really can't find a reason why that is happening, and cannot say that it's from the protein matrix solution or not. I don't know if any members of the subcommittee kind of want to weigh in on that, but we've had numerous discussions in the subcommittee as far as how can we move forward.
Because I remember when this first came up, the minutes would reflect that Bickford's had said, listen, we've been doing this for 30-plus years, we've never had a problem. So now Protein Matrix is being taken care of across the street, but we still have issues coming down. So my concern is introducing this product when there's never been an issue before, well, for Bickford's at least, but when we still have, it's still very unsettling to me, so I'm interested in what Mr. McSweeney and Dr. Weiner have to say from their work on the subcommittee.
What we know is there's a problem on Ray Ave. Well, we know that every 2 weeks, or sometimes more, the DPW has to come in and clean that sewer line. If not, one of the businesses down at the end has a backup into their facility. We know that Cafe Escadrille has gone to Protein Matrix. We've done all kinds of tests. We don't know if those tests, really, we don't know what exactly they've shown, but Protein Matrix claims, and we have seen some evidence that some things are working there. There has been a lot of discussion, well, maybe some of the problem is due to Bickford's Family Restaurant. We don't know. I'd like to ask you in a second, what are you seeing in Woburn? But at this point in time, my feeling is let's go ahead and do this. It may make the situation better. If it makes the situation worse, we're going to have to talk about that again. But the issue is, we don't know where the problem lies. On Ray Ave, we do know that there is a problem, and we can't ascertain if you are a variable or not. I mean, we're being very transparent here, and Bickford's has come up over and over again as we don't know. So by doing this, we may make the situation better, and hopefully we will. It is a cost to you in some ways, but you'll have less pumping in the other, is that correct?
Yeah.
But we have to be very honest with you in saying that if we grant this variance, and the system on Ray Avenue, the sewer system on Ray Avenue gets worse, we may have to come back and say, you may need to go back to what you were doing. We're not singling you out. We have had Cafe Escadrille in here multiple times, both on camera and in subcommittee meetings, and we don't know. I'm willing to go give it a shot. I really am. What are you seeing? Are you using it in Woburn? I'm just
We've been
curious.
using it in Woburn since the beginning of June, and what we've seen is a couple of things. One is, they come in, Weston Sampson comes in monthly to check the tanks. We have 2 grease tanks, internal grease tanks in Woburn, and there is no residue, there is no fog whatsoever. Everything is watery, clean, going out. The chemical, however it works, it does seem to work. And Woburn was actually fairly aggressive. They brought together all the restaurant owners, all the business owners on Montvale Ave, even Valvoline and Jiffy Lube or whoever's there. They had everyone who had any kind of possible chemical that could be going into the pipes come to a meeting. And then they followed up with all the restaurants suggesting that might be less than powerful. They were really pushing people to go to Protein Matrix. So Polcari's, which is on the corner, is Protein Matrix. We are, and what's that Irish place across the street?
Waxy O'Connor's?
Waxy O'Connor's, all 3. McDonald's did not go on the chemical, so I don't know what's happening there. But they have noticed a change on Montvale Avenue. So, and part of it is, you have that stuff dripping into your internal tanks in your restaurant, but it's also going out into the street and then eventually out to Deer Island. So it's, they are seeing a difference because it still continues to do, some of its work as it enters the bigger pipes where everything's coming together. So for us, there's no smell when you open the grease tanks anymore. You open it up and you don't even know the tank is open. And that used to be a very horrible smell. And there is just no greasy residue in there at all.
Do you have an external grease interceptor in Woburn?
No, we don't.
My personal opinion is, maybe it'll make a difference. I'd like to see that. If it gets worse, we may be back here. But I would like to, I am in favor of this with the 6 conditions, and hopefully that may alleviate some of the issues on Ray Ave.
Honestly, I'm wary, but I buy the argument that, this is really the only other variable that we have with regard to significant fog.
Are we so I'm in favor of it as well. I think it's not gonna hurt, it's only going to help if it's gonna do anything. Are we changing, or I guess is the recommendation to change the frequency of cleaning out their internal? grease
Yeah,
traps?
because if there's nothing there, they won't need to do it. I think we put in, we did put in here that they look at it once a year. At least once a year, then it would get professionally serviced.
So you're gonna do, the protocol I think in the past has been, you're gonna do one big giant cleaning of everything, and then you
So before
start.
Protein Matrix will hook up their chemical lines, they want the tanks cleaned within a week before that. So
Right.
they're starting out with something clean.
Right.
And then everything that comes into the tank is being dealt with the chemicals after that.
Well, we have had a problem with, if I think I want to, with the dosage of Protein Matrix. There was a dosage issue that we had. And I'm wondering whether we should ask for one inspection after a couple of months, because to make sure that the dosage is correct. And that was what I was going to.
So I think that that's covered by the first condition, where they're having the system maintenance provider provide us with the reports. So they're using Weston and Sampson, who go out there on a monthly basis, take a look at the system, make sure it's working correctly, and then also adjust the dosing if they feel it's necessary. This is the same way that we're doing Cafe Escadrille now, where it's going to be up to Weston and Sampson to kind of decide what the dosing should be, because I feel as if I'm not qualified to say what the dosing should be for this product.
We went quite a while with the incorrect dosing at the Cafe Escadrille. Would this be picked up, let's say, in a month if the dosing is wrong?
Well, I don't know if we know, so in Cafe Escadrille, they had that issue with the batteries
battery
going
running-
out.
yeah, running out.
And then they didn't have, there was some time in there when there was actually no dosing, and then they had to kind of up it to kind of catch up. So that may be what the issue with the dosing was there. But
Siri not available.
I think if they keep an eye on it, the way they have been in Woburn, that there should not be any issues with the dosing. And if there is, then when Weston and Sampson comes, they should be able to see, well, this doesn't look like it normally should look. Maybe you should increase the dosing.
But they're only gonna come once a year.
Once a month.
They're gonna do once a month, not
Yeah,
once a year.
the once a year to do the cleaning, the
Mass-
professional cleaning.
Okay.
And then once a month to go out and take a look at it, and then provide us with the reports. So they will then email us the
Okay.
reports. So then we can also get an idea of, if we have to go back and take a look, what the dosing was.
Okay.
Also, if I can just add, I mean, we have been monitoring it very closely over in Woburn because it's an investment of our money and we want to make sure it's working. And Henry is primarily responsible for that, so we do watch the dosage meter and make sure that it's changing, that some chemical is going through. And the tech from Weston Sampson, his name is Dimitri, he does a wonderful job. He comes and opens up that tank and takes a look in. He checks the dosage. He has changed batteries for us. He's changed the chemical. We've needed a second batch of the chemicals.
So I've never been to your Woburn location. I've been to your Burlington one, but is there occupancy differential? Like, is there?
Woburn is bigger.
It's bigger?
Yeah, it's larger restaurant. So dosage would be different because we're gonna have less
Right,
going
less
on
going
in
on.
Burlington.
Okay.
But like Susan said, I mean, they're the ones to figure out what the dosage is. They understand how their system works, so. But I've been very impressed with the tech and with that company and just keeping track of what they're doing in Woburn for us.
Okay.
And we were nervous going into it. We were okay with Wind River and just having it pumped every month. We thought that's what everyone else does. But personally, I think this has been a real positive change for us.
All I can say is wait till my daughters and their friends come back from college, because you're going to have to increase the dose in Burlington.
No, but we do have,
Well, that's good.
my concern is Ray Ave, and that still is a concern, and hopefully this will make it better.
Any other questions for either our director or Bickford's? If not, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant, well, it's a variance. I want to make sure that I state the variance correctly, because it is, I have a variance request and a proposal, and we approve the variance for the use of protein matrix at the Bickford's Family Restaurant in Burlington, and it includes the 6 conditions as listed in the proposal.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Let's see.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Plumbing variance recommendation, 10 Sunset Avenue.
Good evening.
Welcome. Please sign and give us your name.
Name is Daniele Miniello. Here for the plumbing variant.
Great.
Yes,
Director?
excuse me, your last name, please?
Miniello.
Miniello. Thank you, Mr. Miniello.
So Mr. Miniello is here to get a recommendation for the plumbing board. He's going to be seeking a variance from the plumbing board to install unapproved fixtures. And these fixtures include a floor standing bidet, a multi-outlet rim-free back-to-wall, a toilet wall carrier, and a rain shower faucet set. So the products that he's looking to install are not manufactured in the United States. So there is a regulation in the United States that requires that all products are lead-free. So one of the things that I discussed with the plumbing inspector is that we don't know if these products actually are lead-free or not. And I'm not sure we have enough information on them to know that. Mr. Miniello provided me today with this form of material declaration, and I believe this is for the toilet and the bidet, correct? But it has, if you look down, I'm not familiar with what this actually is, but if you look down at the table at the bottom and when we look at lead, it's giving a threshold level of 1,000 milligrams per kilogram, and it's just telling us it's not present above that threshold level. With the shower head, he provided some information, which is in your packet, which being this sheet, that says on it that it's a lead-free brass body and lead-free environmental health. I guess those are ratings for the product. So,
Well, I just came back from Due Settimane in Italia. I don't know, is this something that we can say is true for us, given that this...
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
I spoke to this plumbing inspector this afternoon, and he had two or three issues. The issue first was that he said that he did not want to approve it because these are foreign vanities and foreign toilet, bidet, and he said, what if parts break down, that they're not gonna get the parts? And he was afraid of approving it because of that. Personally, I feel, well, that's buyer beware. If it breaks and you can't get the parts, that would be Mr. Miniello's issue. And whether you can't get a plumber to find them, then you lost your money. I don't think that was an issue for me. The other issue is what he told me, is that there was, as he said, cadmium, lead, mercury, all kinds of things here that he couldn't tell whether were present in those materials or not, and therefore he said that he would not approve it based on the fact that you could not provide us with the actual numbers. It says, no, there is absolutely no mercury and cadmium, and there was no lead. And as you know, this material can leach back into the system from his materials.
And these are the threshold levels in Milan, not the threshold levels for us, right? Because this lab is in Milan.
So let me, and quite honest with you, I called our Director of Public Health, and she said, yeah, we have information, but we don't know, even with the materials that Mr. Miniello provides us, whether we should approve it or not.
Right.
So we're down, in my opinion, to two issues based on...
Not approve, recommend.
Recommend, thank you. Recommend, we're down to two issues here. And that would be up to the board. Issue one is, does this board then take no stance? Does this board say, okay, we are going to disapprove? Or does this board, or does this board recommend to the plumbing that they need to make the decision based on the fact that we can't ascertain whether there is lead in the materials or not? So, since it is all we can recommend that Mr. Miniello goes back to the manufacturer and say, look, the Board of Health needs to know whether these materials in the table are present or not. Well, I'm not sure that you can do that. I'm not sure that
I can email, call them and ask.
you can.
Last time I talked with them, I asked, the town, they want to know if there is any lead. They send me that paperwork.
And they say,
It says not.
It says
But that's only with regard to
with the
threshold
thresholds.
levels. Yeah.
So, we have three alternatives here what to do. If we send it to the board, the plumbing board, let them take a look at it and make that recommendation based on this material. I am not expert enough based on this to say, is this okay or not? Our plumbing inspector, who I will say was a very smart and very nice professional, and I want to thank him very much on air for helping me out here. or we can say no. Again, I don't think I have the expertise here to say no either. So I think that our Director of Public Health had a great compromise and said, look, we will recommend based on the decision of the plumbing board as to the content of lead. And that be in the letter to the plumbing board. And I think that is reasonable on our side because we don't have the expertise, reasonable for the plumbing inspector who has been very conscientious and didn't have the information, nor do we. And it leaves it in the hands of the plumbing board to make that ultimate decision. And because maybe they have experience in this appliance that we do not. But I would urge that if we approve it, that we would actually place that in the letter, that we recommend, however, based on the fact of the amount of lead or not amount of lead.
So my wording for that was that you offer no objection to the request for the variance, provided that he provides information to the state plumbing board that the products to installed are lead-free. So he needs to, they bring that information to the state plumbing board and let them decide, make a decision whether or not it's lead-free.
Because our concern only is that is what you are bringing in going to be a danger, a public health concern? I can't say that from this information. The United States is definitely more stringent when it comes to this stuff than Europe is. So, and I'm thinking this must have some sort of very special. This must be special to you, otherwise I would figure that you could get the same types of stuff from the United States. So, and I have no argument with whatever is sentimental or special for you to do. I can't make any recommendations from this, so, you know, I'm good with what our director said. But any other questions, issues, discussion?
I agree with Susan's recommendation.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
We want to be fair.
Okay, I mean, whatever, I try to contact the manufacturers if they're gonna send me something more specific.
Yeah.
But definitely, they need to say no lead at all. The one they sent right now.
Well,
that's
it says, not, all that this form says is that whatever they have declared is a threshold or a minimal value for whatever Italy says is a concern about lead, that they had not measured anything above that value. But the United States, we love numbers, and we have to know what that number is, because in the United States, that number could be significant compared to Italy. So,
So we want to be fair about this.
so, the chair will entertain a motion.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'll see if I can word this correctly. I make a motion that the board offers no objection to the plumbing variance for Danielle Mignello, and I didn't say that correctly, so I apologize, 10 Sunset Drive, Burlington, provided that he or they provide information to the state plumbing board that all of these plumbing products are lead-free. Does that work? Does that work?
Yes.
That's a motion.
Okay.
Second.
This is only for the toilet and bidet. What about the,
Well, that's a good point too, because the rainfall, I noticed that too, actually. The rainfall does say it's lead-free and environmentally lead-free health.
So one thing I'm not sure of
Is there a difference in language?
Or, yeah, like, so in the United States, it has to be lead-free certified.
Certified, that's from the plumbing, it has to be certified.
Right.
Right, so I'm not sure, like, if that's, just because it says that, if that means it's
Right.
lead-free certified.
So I think whatever information you have on, it goes for everything, right? So if that's works, or if that's part of you just need to supply that information to the state plumbing board.
It's all three are in one variance, is that, one recommendation,
Right, of the four, actually.
for one recommendation.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Bona fortuna.
So I will send you a letter to provide to, when you go to the State Plumbing Board, to give to them,
Okay,
talk about the variance.
that's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, I want to thank our plumbing inspector, Glenn Paparo, for his help and explaining everything to me this afternoon.
All right,
Thank you. He's very, very professional.
great. Environmental engineer, good evening, Christine.
Good evening. Just one update for you. We're going to have an intern working with us for this month of January. She's a Burlington resident, but is an undergraduate student at Endicott College, majoring in environmental engineering.
What year is she?
Freshman.
What's her name?
You just put me on, hold on, it'll come to me.
It just means she graduated with my daughter,
Yeah,
so.
Olivia Virgin.
Very good, okay. Welcome, Olivia.
And how did you find her?
She found me.
Oh, very nice.
And she left me a message and asked if she could shadow me for a month. And I said, well, we'll come up with some better definition of what you'll be doing, but she'll be with us for January.
Anything specific to point out, Christine, before I ask the board if they have any questions for you?
No, I don't think there's anything else.
Board have any questions for our environmental engineer? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
I move we approve the environmental engineer's report.
A second?
Motion second, any further discussion, seeing all in favor?
Aye.
5-0, thank you very much. Health agent, good evening again, Marlene.
Good evening. So, Massachusetts recently adopted the 2013 version of the FDA Food Code. We're all excited about that because we were still enforcing the 1999 FDA Food Code, yeah. So, and there's been a lot of, it's scientifically based, so, you know, there's a lot of minor changes, you know, temperatures and just some administration type of things. But some of the big changes that I do want to mention is that there's more emphasis on employee health and really making sure that the employee knows if they have certain symptoms that they need to report that to their manager and can't come to work. And there's also some training with vomit and diarrhea cleanup. It needs to be treated as though it contains norovirus. And so there are protocols in place for that, and they need to have plans on how to clean it and without spreading contamination. And the person in charge, there's a list of duties, there's also a list of knowledge they need to have, and active managerial control. There's been some definition changes. Critical violation now is referred to as either a priority item, which is related to like a risk factor that can contribute to foodborne illness. There's a priority foundation item, which supports or enables one or more of the priority items. And then there's a core item, which is general sanitation and maintenance. And then finally, another big change is the terminology potentially hazardous food is now referred to as time or temperature control for safety food. So what I've done is I put together a little summary, and that's still going to be finalized, and then it will be sent out to all the food establishments. And I talked to Susan about doing some training in January, getting some of the food establishments and the big restaurants and folks like that in for some training. And again, concentrating on that, the illness policy and the vomit and diarrhea cleanup. So,
Can I ask one question?
certainly.
Does the threshold for imminent hazard and the closure of a restaurant, has that changed?
It has not.
Thank you.
So there's a question I've been wanting to ask you all weekend from your report. Sous vide or not sous vide?
I'm sorry, say that again?
I'm referring to the course you took.
Oh.
The sous vide, the style of cooking where you put everything in hot water.
Oh,
Is that
yes.
safe and appropriate to use?
Only if it's done properly. Yes, there's a certain
I knew that was the answer.
procedures. Yep.
Isn't that with everything?
Because we've never, ever talked about that, ever, here, as far as I can recall. And I'm just wondering, that's a whole different style of cooking that people may be adopting.
It is, and we don't really see too much of it.
Okay.
In the restaurants. A lot of times they're making things to order, or if they're making bulk, they have certain shelf life that they want to use it up, so they're not really, that you're probably going to see more in a manufacturing setting.
Okay. Good.
That was a good Shakespeare reference.
No, it was, yeah, well, I was in Verona. Any other questions for our health agent?
I just have one.
Please.
What is the emergency response investigation?
Oh, that's just when we get a call from the fire department to respond if there's a fire.
Okay,
Anything food-related.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Chair will entertain a motion to accept the health agent report.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second?
Motion second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0, thank you very much. Supervising nurse report, good evening, Christine.
Hi.
Not much to report, but I did attach the flu-like graph here that's been going on throughout the United States and also in Massachusetts. This is reporting of flu-like symptoms, not necessarily confirmed flu. I've been working on the flu protocols and getting ready for the emergency dispensing bins for next year, getting ready for the flu clinic for next year. If you have any questions, it just kind of goes by region. If you're looking at this, it has Massachusetts and the United States and what the levels are, percentages of who's reporting, actually, flu-like symptoms. And on the bottom, it goes by region. If you see the state of Massachusetts, it will show you how many people, percentage-wise, are reporting that they're having some kind of symptoms, but not necessarily that they have been confirmed influenza in the state of Massachusetts. So, basically, I'm getting acclimated to my new position, and lots of training.
Great.
And that's really all
Very
I have to report.
Wonderful. Any questions for our nurse?
Not at all.
Chair will entertain a motion to approve her report.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0, thank you. Director?
Yes, so just a couple of things on the subject of interns. We actually have 2 interns coming, so Olivia is going to be coming the month of January. We have another intern coming from UMass Lowell. He's in the public health program there, and he needs to do it for a course, and he'll be here from January until around the end of April. So we've gotten interns from UMass Lowell before from this program, and they've typically worked on the health fair. So that is one of the things that I will ask him to work on, is helping
Great.
us out with the health fair.
Great.
Which is scheduled for the first weekend in May. Then also, just one other thing, I did the site visit for the emergency dispensing site with the Region 4AB emergency planner, and Bob Kuna from the school facilities and Steve Zarber as well from the schools came with us through the walkthrough, which was very helpful. So we looked at the Memorial School and how we would receive pills or vaccine at the school in an emergency situation. So we took a look at the loading dock, and we talked to Steve and Bob about how, in that type of situation, how we would store the materials, how we would lock it up. So there is a good room kind of in the back. It's actually the kitchen area where we could put the vaccine and any medications that we would have to store. They come in on pallets if it was medication. And then you can't stack the pallets. You would have to kind of store them in a row. There's refrigerators there if we ever had to refrigerate any vaccine. So one thing that we did talk about that the planner recommended was to change the flow of the clinic. So we originally had people coming in the front door, going into the cafeteria, filling out their information, and then going over to the dispensing area, and then leaving back out through the front door. So one of the things that he commented on was it's not good to have like a cross, of people crossing like that. So we're gonna try changing the flow there, where people will come in and go to the gym area for registration, and then move over to the cafeteria area, which will actually be the dispensing area, which makes more sense if we ever had to store the vaccine and the medication in the room right behind there. We could do that. And then there's a little door that goes out to the parking lot, so the people would leave through that door to get back out to the parking lot. So I thought maybe next year we could try that flow and see how it works out, because that would be the flow that we would, most likely use if we ever had to open an EDS.
Do we have enough room in the cafeteria?
Well, it's smaller than, that's
Much
a good
smaller.
question, yeah. It's
Much
much smaller
smaller.
than the gym area.
Yeah.
So it would have to be compacted a little bit from what we have in the gym. Although I think in the gym, there's a lot of space that we had the lines pretty much spread out. We may have to do something like stanchions or something like that to kind of separate the lines a little bit in there. So, yeah, I mean, it is
You also
smaller,
have to accommodate the EMTs,
right?
and.
But there's a stage there,
Yeah,
too.
you could put them on the stage.
You could,
Yeah.
That's a possibility.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the big thing that, the main comment that he had. Other than that, he had,
Well, it's a smaller area too, and we had a really large number of folks coming
But-
through. Do you think it could have, do you think that area could have come, all the families and everything we had?
Well,
But
we're
you
gonna
can't
keep them
admit that many to
outside.
the room. You have to
Yeah.
keep them outside.
right.
Okay.
It
So,
would be,
I don't think it would be a problem.
so I guess would flow be delayed, would there be a delay in flow? I mean,
No, you can keep it moving, you just,
Because the auditorium, not the auditorium,
Gym.
the gym was
thank you.
very roomy.
Very roomy, but this other area is much smaller.
But we can, control who comes into the room and the time between they enter the room and the time they actually get in a seat. We can control that, I think.
yeah, and so originally, before I had this conversation with him, there was an issue of holding people in the registration area, which just didn't work in those chairs.
Right.
So I was going to hold them along the side of the dispensing area. But what we could do is cordon off a portion of that gym and hold people in a line in the gym
Right,
instead
now,
of
how,
the,
how close is either door in the gym to the cafeteria? I mean, can we just jet them from the gym across to the
Well,
cafeteria?
it's not. The first entrance.
I can't picture it in my
Yeah, so
head.
the first entrance, or the entrance closest to the front door is way beyond the entrance to the is way before the entrance to the cafeteria. And then the far entrance is actually farther away from the entrance. There's only one entrance going into the cafeteria.
right.
So,
Okay.
Might as well
I'll
try
go
it.
with anything. I'm just saying the flow, I mean, we had a lot of people. I mean, it wasn't more people than we usually have, but it just was a density of families and kids
Right.
and all of that thing.
And a lot of them were in the corridor, though. They were hanging out in the corridor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially, we need to make some type of decision around the high dose this year. We've got to make a decision. Too many people were upset and walked out because there was no high dose.
Well, I think what we need to do, definitely,
And
is
if
put
we-
signs.
Except we gave a significant amount of high dose, that we just didn't
I
have it.
understand.
Prior to.
Prior
and
to.
Which
post.
is a different,
I
different conversation.
It's a total different
Yeah,
conversation, and we ran out of that.
Yeah, no.
I mean, either we do high dose or we don't. It just didn't work, and it was bad publicity for us that people came.
We
I
said there was no high dose available.
Unfortunately, I had to put up signs last minute, and so many people left.
We need to have those signs ahead of time.
And I just think that we
Yeah.
have such a large component of our community is elderly. I can't even imagine us not giving high dose at our major, I just can't, I just think we need to look at that again, because there were so many people who left in a huff because we didn't publicize it well. We had no signage, which I changed the signage. But if we're gonna do this as a community, then we need to offer the high dose. That's my
And we
opinion.
really weren't ready for the number of children that came, and we're gonna have to
Right.
adjust that.
And I
because
just
they
think
have
to go into the
nurses that are-
smaller
Do you have
room
more
is going
children
to
this
be.
year, Susan?
Oh, yes.
Well, yeah,
Many,
so,
many more.
yeah, we did have more although in previous years, we
That's what I
gave
thought. You've
more
had-
to children prior to the
That's what I
clinic,
thought,
because we
right.
opened it up to children before the clinic.
Maybe the
My
na-
recommendation on the high dose would be not to offer it. I think it's a
After
good
the
service
clinic?
for everyone. I think it was great, but it works better at just a high-dose clinic
Clinic
type
type,
thing.
yeah.
Then
Where,
you-
and then have that as soon as it gets shipped, like if we get it in before the
Have a
the
separate.
clinic, have it.
Clinic.
Yep.
And then not put up the signs and advertise in the paper when we advertise for this, that we're not gonna have high dose here.
Or put
Because
it on the banner
they
at
have
the.
it on big?
in an emergency,
Common.
we wouldn't have something so different like that
No.
either.
You'd have
So
this.
it doesn't really fit in with the drill.
And maybe we should look
That's a
into,
good
if
point.
approved next year, that the nasal system for children is approved. We'll know soon enough for that. Maybe we give nasal for children, and that would move kids through very quickly.
We were going to, but it didn't get
The-
shipped
The
to
state
us.
didn't have it. But anyway, I want to respond to what you just said about we wouldn't give that dosage anyway or would have something different. I think what we could learn from accommodating the elders in our community is elder flow and how elder individual flow works in a disaster. And whether or not we need to address something differently when it comes to the elders in our town in order to facilitate their transmigration through our clinic. That would be the only thing that I would talk about.
Yeah.
So not so much the different dosage, but just looking, because if, God forbid, we have a disaster, we have plenty of elders which are right there and are gonna be involved, so.
But wouldn't that be accommodating, anyone who might need assistance, regardless of their age, right?
Perhaps, but we have a significant number of elders, I could imagine a significant number of elders showing up, we have a significant number of localized elders, so I would just wanna make sure that we have a response in a disaster for that. But yeah, anybody with disabilities plays a role, but we have a highly concentrated abundance of elders. I'm just showing my
I know,
filial
I
love,
know.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Don't forget, fill out your social security. But anyway, there is an issue here, and that is the only reason that we should really have this flu clinic is it because it's an emergency drill. Because everybody in the state has health care. Anywhere in the state could go down to any of the local pharmacies and have it done easily, quick, in and out. So there's no reason, because we don't have all the gold here, which is the vaccine. They could have clearly gone to any of the pharmacies in town and got what they needed. The issue is people come because it's convenient and that we need an emergency drill. So maybe we should rethink what we're offering, and maybe have a subcommittee to talk about this, and, because the question is, we don't have, anybody can get the free vaccine anywhere within town, probably quicker than they can get it in our emergency preparedness drill. But people are used to coming, and it is a town program, which I don't want to go away, but I think we need to look at what we want to accomplish. And I think that's the key. What do we want to accomplish here?
I think you raise a good point. It's an emergency disaster drill for our MRC and everybody, but it's also an emergency disaster drill for the town.
That's
for the
correct.
people, to know what to do.
And so many people come, and we thank you for coming, and they get their inoculation.
That's a very good point.
But what are we trying to accomplish? We've lost sight of that in some
Yeah,
cases.
that's a good point.
So maybe as we get closer, I'd be happy to serve on a committee for that, and to actually talk about, what do we want to committee? What do we want to do here? And what would be better for us, maybe to say to every elderly person in town, these are the places that you can get it. It's going to be covered probably by, I can't be sure, so I shouldn't say that, by other third parties anyway. Maybe we should say this is not a a project to the Board of Health. Or maybe go the other side and say, let's do a separate one. I don't know, but I think we need to talk about exactly
We've got enough
what-
of these, I think we can have a conversation.
So this is a decision that you're likely going to need to make soon, because for the next year's budget,
Vaccine.
if we are going to purchase more than we purchased this year of the high dose, then we're going to have to change the revolving account and ask town meeting if we can spend more out of the revolving account.
And
Or we could get the same amount that we got last year, and we'd be fine, or get none at all. I mean, that's a decision of the.
Well, if we're gonna have this, I would also like to invite some members of the community to also be part of this discussion, as well. So, yeah, no, I think we should have it maybe after the first of the year.
Is the high dose new this year?
No.
So
This-
every year
we
you
just-
have
the
a
first
certain
time we
amount,
offered
the
it.
first time you
First time
offered,
we
sorry,
used it.
first time
Yeah.
you offered it at the clinic.
No,
So this-
or, yeah, at the
Or
Board of
at
Health.
the Board of Health.
Yeah.
So this is the first time that you may have
maybe we
had
should-
to turn,
Maybe we should do,
Members
well, we
away.
didn't,
Well,
we turned
we've
elders
always
away
told
from the flu clinic, but elders received 30 vaccinations prior.
100.
100.
oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, and then-
We had 30 left over, left
Well,
over.
we only got shipped 100.
That's it.
We got shipped 100, we would do 30 more, and didn't come until
So we
after
gave,
the
we gave the
clinic.
high
That's a
dose.
lot.
So let's not forget, we gave
Yes.
out 100
And I think
high-dose vaccines.
People liked the service, they were happy with it, and I think it just provided a nice
Yeah.
service to the community. But it doesn't fit in to the drill aspect.
So maybe we have a high-dose flu clinic with adequate amounts of high dose at the senior center, and then invite the community to come in.
Right.
Yeah,
As an
but I-
aside
but I still,
to the EDS.
But I still want to talk about the value of having a workflow for elders coming into a disaster-type scenario. If we do that, then we are obviating that need. I think it's important.
So
So I think we should talk about it.
So what do you want to do? Do you want to have a subcommittee, like, right away after the first of the year to start talking about this? Okay.
Yeah, let's do
And
that.
who's our
Well, I'll
subcommittee?
volunteer me and Ed.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'll get in touch with you after the first of the year so we can meet and start discussing, how to move
And
forward.
obviously Christine needs to be
And
there.
Christine, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Christine, you need to be there. Thank you.
Any other questions
Yeah,
for?
just, what's going on at Old Concord Road?
So they, the owners of we were having an issue there with flooding of Old Concord Road, which is a private road. The Burlington Police and the DPW had, contacted me to see if there's anything that the Board of Health could get involved in, because there was talk that the flooding of the road was being caused by beavers on someone else's property. So I contacted the owners of Old Concord Road, which is the H Mart, and I can't really make them remove beavers. However, with the road flooding out like that, what I told them was this is a nuisance, it's a public health concern, and something needs to be done by the road, about the road. So they temporarily closed the road so no one will get injured on the road. And then they contacted the owners of the adjacent property, Bed Bath & Beyond, who believed that it was due to a blocked culvert. So they went out and unblocked the culvert, and after that, the road is fine as far as I know right now. Whether or not the beavers are gonna go back, and if it even was the beavers that were blocking the culvert, I don't know. But right now, everything is fine with Old Concord Road, and it's open, and there's no other issues as far as I know, and there could be some coming up in the future or not. So they have to work it out amongst themselves as far as who is going to remove the beavers if that's necessary, because we just do the 10-day emergency permits. We don't get involved in saying someone has to remove beavers or not.
Sounds like you were very busy.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the Directors of Public Health.
Second.
report.
Motion second, any further discussion, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Any other issues, concerns, new business for next meeting or to discuss? If not, the chair will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We are adjourned.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy past Hanukkah.
Yes.
Happy Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Happy New Year.
Yes.
Please, everybody, we're at the season now, please wash your
My birthday too,
hands.
yes, happy birthday.
Whose birthday?
Excuse me?
Happy birthday to Mr. McSweeney, happy birthday to Mrs. Welsh.
No, mine's New Year's Eve.